Hello everybody, this is Kevin from KlotzProductions, and this is a deck tech for the deck that I played at the Mirrodin Besieged Pre-Release. I ended up finishing 14th out of about 60 people, which is alright. It's not amazing, didn't make top 8, but I was fairly happy with it. The deck was a blue-white aggro deck for the most part. For the list, I had 1 Arrest, 2 Master's Call, 1 Mirran Crusader, 1 Leonin Skyhunter, 2 Kemba Skyguard, 1 Divine Offering, 1 Dissipation Field, 1 Treasure Mage, 1 Halt Order, 1 Bonds of Quicksilver, 1 Disperse, 2 Turn the Tide, 2 Mirran Spies, a Razorfield Rhino, a Golem Artisan, a Gust-Skimmer, a Silver Myr, 2 Bladed Pinions, a Viridian Claw, 1 Darksteel Axe, and an Origin Spellbomb. And then the Cryptoplasm was actually in the deck at first, but I ended up taking out. But I decided to go ahead and show you all that card just for the sake of it anyway. But at the end of the day, I wasn't actually playing it. And in case you're curious, the 2 promo cards for the day was the Hero of Bladehold, and then the Gliss of the Trader. Then finally, for the lands, I was simply running 8 plains and 6 islands. I'll start off by showing you all the 2 promo cards for those of you that haven't seen them already. For the Phyrexian side, the card was Gliss of the Trader, and then for the Mirran side, the card was the Hero of Bladehold. The first card in the deck was an Arrest. This is pretty simple for what it was. It was just basic creature removal. Next up is 2 Master's Call. These gave me the ability to get Metalcraft at instant speed when I had my Razorfield Rhino out. It was also good to be able to pump them with the Golem Artisan, and then they were also good simply because they're good cards in themselves in this format, and that they give you 2 creatures for 1 card, which are good for blockers or attackers. Next is the Mirran Crusader. This is a pretty powerful card. Since it has double strike, it can block just about anything, at least in this format. And since it had the protection from the green and black, it allowed me to deal with anybody that was playing the Phyrexia side fairly easily. Unfortunately, I don't really know that I ran into any of them during the pre-release. I think there was one in the top 8, but most of the people were playing the Mirran side. I had 1 Leonin Skyhunter. This was actually a card that I saw a lot of people playing throughout the day, and that was simply because it was a 2-drop that gets you a 2/2 flyer, which is pretty good, especially in this format. I also had 2 Kemba Skyguard, which is similar to the Skyhunter. However, he cost 1 more, so he wasn't quite as good, but he did gain me 2 life whenever he came into play. Another really good card in the deck that a lot of people were playing during the day is Divine Offering. It allows me to destroy any artifact and then gain life, and it does it at instant speed. And since there are so many artifacts in this set, it was very useful for the tournament. This is the Cryptoplasm, which I said was a card that I took out of the deck later on. I initially had him in there, but I thought he would be good, but it seemed like there weren't a lot of targets for him to become. Since a lot of people were playing weenie decks like I was, he usually wasn't much more than just the 2/2 that he was, so I ended up taking him out. However, if there was more of the Phyrexia that I ran into, it's possible that I could have ended up using them to become a lot bigger creatures. The next card is the Dissipation Field. I think this would have been a really good card to use, however I only ended up getting to play it once, and the one time I did, I think it bounced 1 creature and then my opponent destroyed it. I don't remember if he just destroyed it with enchantment removal or if he turned it into an artifact and destroyed it, but I remember he got rid of it pretty quickly because I think it could have been a very much of a nuisance in the format and helped me out and done a lot of damage. But in the play-in, I didn't really get to see the benefits of him. This is the Treasure Mage, and the main reason I played him was the card advantage that he gave me, allowing me to search for the Razorfield Rhino when he came into play. And that was pretty much it. I think I was able to search for the Rhino once or twice, so it did give me an extra creature to put onto the board. This is the Halt Order, and this was actually a pretty good card in the format. because just like the Divine Offering, there's a lot of artifacts in this format, so it was able to get a lot of use. And since it was a counter spell, it surprised a lot of people because I was able to counter some of their most powerful artifacts. And then it lets me draw a card afterwards, so it was able to replace itself. So that's why I figured it was a counter spell worth putting in the deck. Next up is the Bonds of Quicksilver, and this is pretty basic. It's just like the Arrest. It gives me creature removal, but they have to tap down first, but that's why the card has flash. Next up is Disperse. In playing, I'm not sure how much I like the card. There were situations when it was really useful because I was able to bounce creatures that were equipped with equipment during combat and then they couldn't re-equip it, so in that situation it was good. But overall I don't know if it was worth the benefit that it gave me in the long run. I had 2 Turn the Tides in the deck, and these were actually some additions I didn't put in till late in the tournament, and I realized that there were so many people at that tournament playing weenie decks and lots of little creatures, and since I also had lots of little creatures, then to be able to block or to trick somebody to attack into my creatures or to attack into them and force them to block and then use these, they were basically turned into removal because it allowed my creatures to stay alive and I was able to kill theirs at the same time. I had 2 Mirran Spies in the deck, and these were basically good because they had flying and they had the 3 defense, but mainly the flying that gave them the evasion to get over my opponent's creatures and get in for some damage. And then his ability to untap some artifacts was useful in some certain situations to where I could attack with my creatures and then play the spy and then untap them again. Or rather, to cast another artifact and untap them again. This is the Razorfield Rhino I was talking about that I used with the Master's Call to get the Metalcraft and also used the Mage to search for. In himself, he's not that great of a creature, but with the combination of the other cards, I did actually end up using him quite a bit, and having a 6/6 on the board was no laughing matter in this format. This is the Golem Artisan. I actually didn't get to use him too much in the tournament, however, whenever he was on the board, he posed a pretty good threat because I was able to pump all my other artifacts or give them other abilities, so it gave me a place to sink all that extra mana into. And all in all, I think he was a pretty good creature for the format. So speaking of artifact creatures, here is another one. And this guy is just a simple 2-drop with flying. Well, you could give him flying with the 1 blue mana. And so basically, he was just another creature that had the evasion to get over and get in for some damage. I actually liked him quite a bit in this tournament. Another artifact creature was the Silver Myr. And he's not that great, but he is just a regular little mana dork. And he did what you would think he would do. He just supplied me a little extra mana and gave me a blocker or another weenie guy to attack with if I had some equipment. Getting into some equipment, I had 2 Bladed Pinions, and these were actually a later addition to the deck. I had them, thought about playing them at first, but I didn't, but then later on I realized since they were able to give my creatures the evasion with the flying and then pair that along with the first strike, they were actually really good because, like I said, so many people were playing the same format with the little weenie creatures that having first strike made a big difference. Kind of along the same lines as the Bladed Pinion is the Viridian Claw. It did pretty much the same thing as an equipment, however instead of giving them flying, it gave them +1 in his attack, so it made my creatures more threatening. And then probably one of the most common equipments during the tournament was the Darksteel Axe. It has indestructibility, or is indestructible, which is actually something I forgot several times throughout the tournament in using it and playing against other people, but it definitely made it better. And then the fact that it gave your creatures +2/+0 and only cost 1 to play and 2 to equip made all those little weenie guys seem a lot more intimidating. Finally, I had 1 Origin Spellbomb, and this card was good because it gave me a mirror token and allowed me to draw another card. So it was card advantage in a sense in that it replaced itself, and plus it just gave me another mirror that I could use early on as a chump blocker or to pump later on or equip with an equipment. So that's it for my Mirrodin Besieged pre-release deck tech. I hope you all enjoyed it, and I'll see you all later.